Eventide Entertainment presents The Drive-In, hosted by Aaron Lopez. Welcome to The Drive-In, everybody. Thanks for basically dealing with missing out last week. I was in LA for a weekend for a conference with my school, and although that was really, really fun, we got to go to Disneyland, I was not able to see a movie or really anything. Didn't get to see anything Netflix, nothing like that. So I'm glad to be back to review our movie for today, which is The Disaster Artist, which... Before we get started, let's introduce our first-time repeat guest host. First time. Episode 9. Got through 8. Jack is back from episode 3, Geostorm. Jack, welcome back.
Thank you.
And Jack brought me Bill's Donuts, and he's amazing for that. We were talking last night. We went to a Christmas party, and usually late nights, there's a Dayton, Ohio donut shop that's open 24 hours a day. We were talking about how much we love it, and he brought some Bills today. So not only is he the first two-time guest host, but he is also my favorite person because he brought me Bills. So thank you, Jack.
I knew your friendship could be bought. It was great.
Excellent. All right, so the element that I was talking about earlier that I didn't even think about even bringing up to you, I'm sure you've seen it, though, the Avengers trailer. That was what I was going to do an episode over. So if we have any time to talk about that, maybe we can at the very end of the episode we can talk about it. So, and I just sprung it on him, so it'll be kind of random, and I haven't even prepared for it. So hey, we'll look at it and we'll see. Maybe we'll talk about it a little bit. But so The Disaster Artist is our movie for the week. We went and saw this past week. Disaster Artist starring James Franco, Dave Franco, Alison Brie, and many others. Directed by James Franco. Pretty good movie. I'm excited to dive into it. We'll see what our overall opinions are as we go. But I think it'll be a good conversation. Before we get started, though, as always, we've got a trailer breakdown. I had 6. We'll see if they line up with what you saw, Jack. But A Prayer Before Dawn was the first one that I had. Blockers, Downsizing, Game Night, The Shape of Water, and Thoroughbreds. Did you have anything other than those that you remember?
Don't think so. The ones that stuck out in my head were definitely Downsizing, because we're just like going, what the hell is Matt Damon doing now? Like, this seems weird. And then definitely The Shape of Water looks really good. I'm really disappointed that there's no screenings yet in this area.
We've been looking for it, and it hasn't come out yet. So hope maybe next week. Unfortunately, it's going to be going up against Star Wars, though. So, I mean, that means that there won't be as many people, so we can use our movie passes to see it after we go see Star Wars. But yeah, so The Shape of Water was one that jumped out to me. One that I am really excited for was Thoroughbreds. And not necessarily for the plot, but just because Anton Yelchin's in it, and he's passed, and there's only been so many movies that he was in, and I absolutely love him as an actor, and I'm excited. I love his work, and he's not the main character in this. Basically, the plot of it was kind of two friends get together. One feels all of the emotions, one feels no emotions, and then you have the one with all of the emotions. Her stepdad is a jerk, kind of this just assaulting asshole kind of a character, and the other friend says, well, why don't you kill him? And like jokingly, and then they plot to kill him. And Anton Yelchin's character kind of comes in as one of the guys that help them potentially do this with like offering the gun, and I don't know, it just looks interesting. We'll see. This doesn't come out until I believe next March, though, so we got plenty of time to see more about that. But yeah, Downsizing for me, the trailer for that had an element that I didn't see in the others, that I was kind of like, I'm excited to go see Downsizing just because it's a different idea. But they gave away a pretty big plot point in the trailer that they hadn't before, with his wife deciding that she doesn't want to do it. I don't know if it was, did you see the same trailer where she calls him saying, hey, I can't leave my family and I can't do this?
Yeah, and that was literally the first trailer I had seen for this. Like, okay. I had no idea this movie was a thing.
Yeah.
And so it was just completely, like, it's so random. It's not random. A normal movie plot.
No.
But it really seems interesting.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's going to be good, but interesting is a good word. Like, it's not a plot that we have heard before or seen, and if we have, I can't think of it off the top of my head. But the first trailer I saw when we went and saw Suburbicon, and I was like, okay, this looks pretty good, and I was kind of excited to see it. But they had given no inclination whatsoever that the wife wasn't there. Like, they'd done a really good job of showing the whole trailer with basically just Matt Damon as being one of the smaller people. And then now they give that away. And I was like, well, why did you... Unless there were complaints or something, that would have been something to have... basically, I would have enjoyed not knowing that going into the movie.
I think they just wanted to kind of maybe give that extra little bit of a, like, element of, oh, well, this is the weird thing.
Yeah.
But then also, this happens.
Yeah, so here's some character development that you're going to see. And as always, a funny movie is going to have some funny trailers. Both of these look so stupid, but good funny for me, is Blockers and Game Night. I think they're going to be funny. Are they going to be good? Maybe not, but...
I'm real excited for Game Night. Like, I host a game night for my, like, family, and one of my friends looks at me and they go, is this what your game nights are like? And I go, yeah, pretty much, you know. Aren't they all? But no, it just seems like it has a stellar cast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And Rachel McAdams is hilarious in everything she does, I feel
absolutely.
like. And, like, every scene she's in that trailer is really great.
Well, I love Bateman. Bateman's one of those characters that he caught me with Arrested Development, and I've loved him in everything else that he's done. He's just a really funny actor, so Game Night will look cool. And then, honestly, I'm excited for Blockers just because John Cena has an actual longer role, and he's just funny. He's funny because he's not really that good of an actor. Like, he's somewhat believable. Did you see Daddy's Home 2?
No.
Oh, he's in that, and it's one of those elements of, okay, it's John Cena. It's kind of like what The Rock started out as. It's like, oh my gosh, The Rock's in a movie. This could be something. I don't know.
Now he actually kind of is a star. Like,
he's kind of the biggest guy in Hollywood now.
Yeah,
so.
I haven't seen Daddy's Home because I have a Will Ferrell aversion.
Oh, okay.
Which is an unusual and much contested point to anyone I talk to.
Well, you either love him or hate him. I don't know many people that are on the, oh yeah, I kind of like him in this or this, but I hate him. No, either. I think that maybe Elf's the only movie that people are on if they don't like him, and even that doesn't catch everybody. So
yeah, he's a force to take.
Okay, so and then the last trailer that we haven't yet talked about, which I don't want to spend too much time on. I don't know if I'm interested in seeing it at all, but A Prayer Before Dawn. That was the boxing MMA.
Oh, okay.
It was okay. It looked interesting, but it's just not my style of movie. It felt like a boxing drama.
Yeah, it seemed like it belonged more in like a Showtime limited series.
Yeah,
or something.
Exactly.
And maybe that's just because there was that one on DirecTV that had like one of the Jonas Brothers in it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like they played it up as being like this huge independent film, like Cinderella story. Like it was like it was shot on film in Thailand, and like all these like really this could be really cool, and all these awards it's already received at the Cannes Film Festival. But I don't know. It didn't look that interesting to me. But I don't know. We'll see. Prayer Before Dawn. We'll probably see some more trailers before that one comes out to make our decision there. All right, so on to our spoiler-free summary. The Disaster Artist is a story of when Greg Sestero, an aspiring film actor, meets the weird and mysterious Tommy Wiseau in an acting class. They form a unique friendship and travel to Hollywood to make their dreams come true, ultimately creating what some call the best worst movie of all time, The Room. All right, so if you have or haven't seen The Room, this is a movie that you don't necessarily walk into feeling like, okay, if I haven't seen any of it, am I gonna, is it almost like a sequel? Well, or like you have to have that background.
Yeah, I went into it without seeing it.
Me too. And when we get into our discussion, actually, Jack let me know that he actually had gone out yesterday and watched The Room. So I have yet to see it. So I'm excited to see your connections as we go through.
You saw most of it.
I saw most of it through, yeah. So yeah, I saw the trailer, and the trailer itself kind of feels like, okay, that's pretty much it. But all right, so there's your spoiler-free summary. If you haven't yet gone and seen The Disaster Artist, and you are interested in going to see it, but you don't want any spoilers, This isn't really a movie that you can get spoilers through. It's based on a true story, but just in case, I don't want people mad at us for spoiling anything. This is your opportunity to pause this podcast and come back and listen to us a little later after you've seen it. All right, excellent. So, again, this is the time that I like to say that we have the people who don't care about the spoilers, or they just like to listen to us talk. So, I'm hoping it's the latter. Let's just get into it. So, the movie starts out in a really interesting way, and I wasn't sure if it was kind of a farcical element or if it was real, but by the end of it, they never really joked about. They have all these real actors talking about their immediate reactions and the lasting effects of the room, and Tommy Wiseau's writing, directing, and acting of it. What did you think about that as being the preface to the movie?
It was a really good way, I think, to kind of set up how it's this cultural phenomenon. Mm-hmm. Honestly, though, I'd never heard of it before. I came into this literally completely blind.
Okay.
Some people, like, at work, it became a thing where they did, like, a screening of the room to prepare for this, and I didn't go to it because I was like, that sounds really bad. Like, why do I want to do this?
Yeah.
And so I, like, ignored it, and then a group of people wanted to go see it, and I'm like, you know what? I don't have to, like, I have no consequences because the movie passed, so I just went ahead and went for it. Exactly. And I'm sitting there and I'm just going, okay, well, this kind of establishes it for me. Like, yeah. I didn't have that lead up of, oh my god, this is why this is such a great thing.
Well, and it was a lot of very well-known actors and actresses. So, and like, even like Kevin Smith made an appearance. You have a lot of people who are jumping out and saying, like, here's the lasting impact of this movie, and now you're going to learn about how this movie came to be. So, if anything, Disaster Artist to me felt like a kind of an homage to a potentially forgotten cult classic. And like you said, it kind of gave you like, all right, well, here's your investment. All of these actors are feeling one way about it. Maybe it is worth my time, at least in the fact that it's a bad movie, good movie, way ahead of his time. The fact that we are still talking about it, 15 years after it came out. So yeah, I thought it was interesting. The movie starts out with Dave Franco's character kind of being the focal point until James Franco and his character Tommy Wiseau making its way in, looking at an acting class. And I thought it was really funny because the two different, as being a theater guy, I love how they were playing Waiting for Godot. And there's I don't know if you're familiar with this at all, but there's a lot of discussion and debate about how it's pronounced, if it's Waiting for Godot or Godot. But he pronounced it was like Godot or something along those lines, which was kind of funny because that's one of the pronunciations that's nowhere in that discussion. But the actor who was next to him, I don't know the guy's name, but he's in Fresh Off the Boat, and he also he played Kim Jong-il. In
Park is his last name.
Yeah, in The Interview, which I thought was funny because, I mean, you see James Franco becoming almost this generation's Adam Sandler. The movies that group of friends are in.
Don't put that evil on him.
Oh, but I think, I mean, as far as like the friends, like Adam Sandler's group, they were in everything. Like if you were buddies with him, you were going to be in his movies. And Franco, and I do like Franco's movies a lot more than Sandler. Sandler's have their place. Big Daddy, Happy Gilmore, they're in that discussion. Ben. Yeah. But not like Grown Ups, and no, that's I hate the stuff he's done, from basically since he's had kids, but that's neither here nor there. But James Franco, once you're in a movie with him and Seth Rogen, you're golden. You've got a job. And
it's the same with Scorsese too.
Exactly.
Like there's all the. It's fun to see that though, the collaboration where it's just like, hey, can I get you to come in and do a bit part for something?
Yeah. Well, and I thought that was great because it's Dave Franco has that built in because they're brothers, but he's done some great stuff. Even outside of the fact that I don't think that Dave Franco is riding in coattails of his brother. He has ability.
No, he kind of went on his own.
Yeah. And so, but the fact that they're brothers, he's going to call him in, and I thought he was great. He was perfect for this role. But we're getting a little off track. Let's keep with the plot, though. So the acting class, and Tommy, James Franco steps up and says that he'll do a scene. And he calls a girl up and says, like, okay, I need you as my partner. And she's, all right, it's fine. And then he doesn't tell her what he's going to do. And he does, basically not even a scene, but like the 2 lines from Streetcar Named Desire, where you've got, the Stella, and he's just screaming Stella. He's just consistently going through and saying that. This is our first experience with Tommy Wiseau, the character. What were your first impressions?
I was going, oh dear Lord, I just sat down to a movie where I'm going to deal with this for an hour and a half. And I'm like, I hope it's not this over the top the entire time. It eventually grows on you, though.
Yeah, you get used to it. Yeah. And I'm in that boat. It's, for me, the whole discussion of this story starts out in Franco's portrayal of Wiseau is the true absurdity to it. You see this character in this Stella scene, and you're like, okay, this is ridiculous. Like you said, are we going to get 2 hours of this, hour and a half of this, whatever it was? And we kind of do, but I think that they do a really good job of keeping this character true. Like it's
a very human portrayal of it, because it could be very, very easy to make this just a caricature.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I think that's the introduction we got was a little bit more over the top than maybe it needed to be. But then as I think it kind of mirrors as Dave Franco's character gets to know Tommy Wiseau or James Franco's character.
Yeah.
I think that it just kind of mirrors okay, he's not just this crazy person. There's more to this. And I think that's kind of how they set it up, because he became calmer after the first couple of scenes with him. Because the diner was a little weird.
Yeah. But I like that, though. You said, like, as Greg, Dave Franco's character is going through and meeting him. The audience sitting in the theater kind of gets to meet Tommy as well. That's pretty cool. And he wants to, and, this friendship is kind of bizarre and almost a little creepy once we find out that Greg is only 19. For me, I was very much along like, okay, he's in this acting class and he just meets this guy, and you make friends and you talk to people, but he's just out of high school. He's just starting his acting career. He still lives in his mom's house, and so you have a whole lot of this young character, this young person who is going off and decides to live in LA, in Hollywood, with this random guy who he doesn't know the age of. No one does, still to this day.
Right.
Such a mysterious character, and you actually have to go back and listen to some of these interviews with the real Tommy Wiseau to just see how absurd this character is in the film and how true to life it is, but also at the same time, just how you can't write this. Like, Franco could not have just pulled this
You
together.
can't make this character up.
You can't. And just, if you do, it comes out looking like Johnny from The Room. Like, it looks so fake. But you see that he is this guy, and you actually see the interviews. And I actually think he was on... James Franco went on Jimmy Kimmel, and they brought Tommy Wiseau out, and he's just this larger-than-life character guy who's just bizarre.
Although he did admit that he was from Eastern Europe.
Well, okay, that's a lot.
Kimmel.
That's a big deal.
That's a big piece of the missing puzzle there.
Even though they talk about the fact that you could very clearly tell that he's from that huge region where we don't know, but
it's not a surprise to hear that.
No,
like, it's
but
like,
he's never,
okay. But he never admitted it.
Yeah.
He always would say he's from New Orleans.
New Orleans. Bayou. The Bayou. Okay, so, the story gets us from San Francisco to LA, and Tommy can kind of, well, not convinces, but says, well, let's go live in my apartment in LA, and Greg is saying, oh, you've got an apartment in LA, and this is like, all right, cool, like, where's all this money come from? And this is one of those things that really is that thread that connects the character's motivations and development of him into the mystery of who he is, or who, any aspect of him, he says, don't talk about that. That's personal. Like, don't talk about me. Right. And the character says that a lot in the movie. There are so many questions around him, and that I think has a little bit to do with the cult following of The Room, the actual movie The Room, because this guy is just so bizarre and so out of left field, and there's so many questions. Where does his money come from? How old is he? Where is he from? And why did he make this movie? And all these other questions that I think we get some answers to, or potential answers, at least from Franco's vision of the character and the portrayal of him and his story. But yeah, it's interesting. There's this wealth and mystery about him that I think is this thread that they really continue to look at. Like, there's the bank scene where he's like, it's a bottomless pit. Like, I don't know where this money's coming from. Yeah,
that was an amusing scene, I thought, to me, with the Seth Rogen's character just being like, I want to cash this if it works. Yeah. Like, he still doesn't believe that this is, like, a legitimate thing that he's signed up for.
And then he's like, oh, yeah, would you like large bills? He's like, it went through?
Like, yeah, it was just, like, okay.
All right. Yeah. And this is where we start to see potential, at least in my opinion, some potential conflict in the story. Greg's character is seeming to have some potential in Hollywood. He gets signed by the Iris agency, which at the time I actually did a little research, found out is one of the bigger agencies in Hollywood at the time. This was a big deal agency, and he was signed on, and Tommy wasn't. Tommy couldn't get a break. And it doesn't surprise you. He's not he's somebody who could play one type of character, and they even refer to that as he's a villain. He's a Frankenstein's monster, or
vampire.
A Dracula. He's not the hero, and I think that's kind of one of those underlying themes of the movie, where you have all these actors who have to just they have a type, and you have all these actors who want to step out of that, and like they want to do something creative and be this type. To really get a break in Hollywood, you have to do one thing and do one thing very well. So I think it's interesting to see how Franco's doing something by playing Tommy Wiseau that Tommy could never do in real life, because he was such a pigeonhole, corner of the room type of guy.
Right, yeah. That's a good way to put it, honestly. Because it does seem like that. You have the characters that every time you see them on screen, it's like, oh, they're going to play a bad guy,
Oh, yeah.
It's like, you see them pop up on screen, and it's like, oh, they're gonna be an antagonist.
We even talked about with Geostorm, who ended up being the villain in that. Not Ed Helms? The older guy. I can't remember his name. But it's as soon as he walked on, I was like, oh, he's going to be the villain. And he turns out being the villain. It's just like some characters, some actors play these characters that are villains, are heroes, are the love interest. You might vary from that a little bit. There might be some tweaks to the plot and some twists and turns, but 9 times out of 10, they're going to portray that type of character. So, what were some of your thoughts as we got into Hollywood? We start to see this break, not necessarily breakup, a split or wedge starting to divide between Greg and Tommy, with Alison Brie's character. I think her name was Emily. And we have we start to see little things. Tommy's very, I don't know if this goes too far as to say, but Tommy Wiseau's character and the real life person feels like he'd almost be on the spectrum, almost, because he is very rigid, and he thinks if someone says this, it means this. And that might be one thing, but he also that could be a translation barrier too.
I think it might just be a language barrier, and just there are so many intricacies in how people talk that I think that makes a big impact whenever there's that language issue.
Yeah.
But I think the big thing for him, as far as the character in this movie, I think his relationship with Greg is, this is the first time somebody's taken him seriously, almost.
Yeah.
Because everybody else laughs at him, scoffs, and Greg's like, I need to be more like you. You actually can put yourself out there. I can't do this.
He talks about the fearlessness.
And, I think that's where that bond came from. And so whenever there were any other individuals that don't see him in the light that Greg had seen him in, there's that area of conflict of maybe he's gonna abandon me and like change his mind or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that was the big driving force there whenever a new character was introduced, because you saw it at the bar too.
Oh yeah, where he wants to dance, and I thought that was great when he goes onto the dance floor and starts doing, and that to me screamed the Eastern European character in the American dance club, just kind of flailing about, and out of his element, because it was so funny to see James Franco just saying like, "Oh, I love this song," and he goes out and starts dancing, and he's just like kind of like punch dancing and doing all this crazy stuff, and that's where I think that you start to see that wedge, because he goes off and does he's himself. Tommy's Tommy, but Greg continues to want to make these connections and meet people. That's why he goes to Hollywood. It's all about networking, who you know, and in a smaller version of it too, it's this romantic interest, and he's got a girl who's talking to him, and this is where we start to see the potential reality of The Room being written by Tommy as a way to tell his own story, and they allude to that later on, where Lisa is the universe, is life, kind of trying to screw over Tommy, and Greg is Mark. Like, he was not just written for the role, but he is that role of the person, kind of one of his best friends, still trying to pull away though from who he is, or that friendship. So things are starting to go south for Greg. He's not getting all of the auditions that were promised to him, it's just like, I think they say at one point he says that the auditions are drying up. He's just not getting the calls anymore. His agent won't return his calls. Tommy's been pretty much laughed out, and this is after an interaction with a big-time Hollywood producer, which is Judd Apatow's character, and is told, like, you're never going to make it. You are never going to make it, not in a million years. And then Tommy goes, but after, like, okay, a million years, but then maybe in a billion. Like, he's still seeing that thread of hope. But he says, this town just doesn't get me. And Greg, kind of just trying to make him feel better, says, I just wish we could make our own movie and just kind of forget about all these other people. Tommy says, all right, let's do it. And there's almost a slight hesitation. And there's always this hesitation on Greg's part. When Tommy says, all right, Greg doesn't know whether or not he's like, true or like, actually, yeah, like, let's do this. It starts out with him saying, let's go see James Dean's crash site. And then on the way back, let's go to live in LA. And it's like all these, like, Tommy just has no problem. Like, yeah, let's up and do it. Life's too short. Let's, why are you questioning something if you want it? And Greg's kind of this character who continues to go forth with it, but hesitate, that slight hesitation. Tommy doesn't have that. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that could go back again to that whole acting scene that you first introduced the character.
Yeah, absolutely.
Introduced to them, because it's I'm just going to go for it, and I don't want to be laughed at. I don't want this to go wrong. And I think that it was a common theme throughout the entire thing. Because even when they get to the point where they have the movie together and like they're producing it and everything, Greg has a lot of hesitation towards things.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this isn't going well. This looks bad, And everybody looks to him as, hey, you know him. You're friends with him.
Yeah.
Fix this.
Exactly. And you are the only person who gets him. You're the only person that he has his ear. Whereas everybody else can say or do something and Tommy just doesn't listen to it. Whereas if Greg says something, he'll at least take a minute or two to consider it. He may not go with it, but he's going to think about it. So we see Tommy riding The Room. And I think one of my favorite lines from this whole movie is when he's talking about what this is as he's writing it. And he's like, Johnny is this, and he's explaining it. And he goes, and Johnny may be a vampire. Well, I don't know yet. That completely changes the whole plot. But I think in this movie, in The Room, it maybe, even if he was a vampire, if you wrote that in, I don't think it would have been the focal point. It would
have been a one-off remark.
Yeah.
Because there are so many of those. There's like plot points that get mentioned once and then never touched on again. And like they make fun of that a little bit in or pointed out, I should say, not really make fun of it.
Yeah, just
because it's just a thing that happens in it. They point out the breast cancer
line. Yeah.
And
is this gonna come back?
And there's so many things like that. The other one is Danny's character involved with the drug plot where he owes a guy money, played by Zac Efron, which I didn't realize until the end.
No, I love that because Zac Efron. I caught that because Zac Efron, to me, I love that guy. He is one of these kind of rags to riches story. He is High School Musical. And now he's doing legitimate roles, in some major movies, but then still comes on. And I think that's the Dave Franco connection because those two are like best friends.
Yeah.
But yeah, Zac Efron's in this. Josh Hutchinson's in this as Danny.
Yeah.
There's all these characters who really are these actors in it who you would never really expect to be in this. And I think that just kind of plays more into the absurdity of The Room being portrayed.
By the way, I'm pretty sure, I've heard rumors about it, but I haven't, gotten official things. But I think they pretty much did a shot-for-shot remake of the entire film.
Well, and they
used enough of it. And then at the end credits, they show some scenes that weren't actually even in the movie.
Yeah.
So it's okay, I could see this. It would cost them, $200 to maybe shot for shot.
I would not be surprised if that is on the Blu-ray. Here's you watch the movie, and it was cool, and we can jump ahead to that because you're discussing it, but this idea that they did not only do the remake in some of these scenes when they were recording or filming, but the timing of it is even pretty close. It is identical in some scenes and just slightly off in others.
Yeah, it's
just really, really cool. Okay, before we get into, because the majority of the rest of the film about actually filming The Room is really all that's left, but that is going to take up a bit of time. So let's take a little break here. Let's all go to the lobby, grab some snacks, refill your drinks, and see what is coming up soon from Eventide.
There's nothing quite as satisfying as a good conversation with intelligent company. Join comedian Don Smith every week as he sits down and talks with comedians, actors, filmmakers, writers, and everyday schmoes. It's The Life with Don Smith, Wednesdays at noon on 106.9 FM, and now available on the Eventide Entertainment podcast feed every Friday on Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes.
The weekdays are made for working, but the weekends, those are made for gaming. Join Ellison Smith every Saturday for a new episode of Saltwater Gaming as he breaks down video games of all different genres, consoles, platforms, and eras. Get a bit of the old and a bit of the new, a bit of the action and a bit of the mystery. Get it all every Saturday on Saltwater Gaming, brought to you by Eventide Entertainment.
There's a reason they call them lazy Sundays. There's nothing better than sitting around and enjoying the comforts of a good book. But what book should that be? Well, every Sunday, Eventide brings you The Bookseller, hosted by Jessica Gillen. Each week, Jessica breaks down a different book and tells you everything you need to know before cracking it open and getting lost in a whole new world. Tune in every Sunday for The Bookseller with Jessica Gillen, brought to you by Eventide Entertainment.
All right, we are back. We just got done talking about kind of the build-up into actually filming The Room. We talked a little bit about Zac Efron making an appearance and some others. But this is where we start to see The Room actually being filmed. We see a lot of the characters who are in the trailers. Your Seth Rogen's, I don't even remember the name of some of these guys. But if you've ever seen The League, you've got the two of the characters from there. You've got all these actors who are kind of these comedian actors who are in the trailers but don't come into play until the filming starts. Of which actually Hannibal Buress is also one of them too.
Yeah, it's a bunch of it literally going back to the earlier comment of it's people that work with James Franco, it's people that work with Dave Franco. This is a group of people, and I think it's the combination of knowing James Franco as a person and just this fascination with the movie and wanting to be a part of telling this story, I think, that got a lot of people on board.
They really did. And it's really cool to see all of these different actors in it. But then the funny part is when you have them talking about there's an element as they are filming where it's getting really hot. Tommy won't pay for air conditioning. Tommy won't get water for the actors, and one of them faints. And they're eating. Seth Rogen says, "Screw it, we're doing lunch. I don't care. We got to air this place out." While they're eating lunch, there's a discussion that I think is one of those huge themes when. I think it's Greg's character. Greg says to the older lady who had fainted, "Why do you do this? You don't live nearby. You've got grandkids. Why do you continue to put yourself through this?" And she says, "That's what acting is. Our worst day on set is still better than what other people may get to do. We get to make movies." And I think that you see some of the characters or the actors that are sitting at that table, and they're not the most well-known actors in the world. They've been, like you said, the bit roles. People know their face. They're friends. They will always have a job just because of the people they know. And what they do is they do what they do very well. But I think that's this one of these big messages behind the story of Tommy in The Room is that actors go through hell, but they do it because they absolutely love it. Like, you wouldn't do it if you hated it. And I don't know. I feel like the more I talk about the Disaster Artist, the more I talk about The Room, I kind of buy into this possibly made up huge hierarchy of thought that went into it. I think that it's the analysis behind it is so much more than what Wiseau ever intended. But I don't know. I feel like this whole idea of acting being very, very difficult to do, and this is Tommy's story being kind of testimony to that, perhaps.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I think, overlap between definitely the way that they portray the Tommy and Greg relationship as to the Johnny and Mark kind of relationship. It does seem very similar, and like the characters are basically just the actors.
Yeah, and they even, I think, sitting down at that lunch conversation, you have one of the actors saying, "I think we figured it out. Like, Tommy is Johnny, Mark is Greg," and they're like, "Well then, okay, who am I?" And the character plays Lisa says, and she says, "You're the universe. The universe is screwing Tommy over, and he's portraying it through this relationship." And it really comes full circle at that last scene. We'll get to that, but that last scene with the football that we see happen organically, just like as it happened, and then there's a callback to it. But we'll get to that in a little bit. So Tommy goes and is filming. We've kind of jumped around a little bit, but he buys the equipment as opposed to renting it. He brings everyone on without any questioning or interviews, and he consistently says the reason for this is because this is a real American movie. This is how they do it in America. He wants to make this real American movie. And I don't know. I think that was kind of one of those consistent things that he himself said, so they wanted to make sure that they put it in as many times. But to me, the scene that, I don't know, I think it was probably the best scene in the movie, but also at the same time, because I'd seen the teaser trailer, kind of lessened the impact for me, was the rooftop scene where he's talking about, "I did not hit her. I did not. That's bullshit. I didn't hit her. She's lying. Oh, hi, Mark." And I think that's actually the line. Close to it. But this whole idea, if you've seen the teaser trailer, you have seen that 3 to 4 minute scene in its entirety. They didn't cut it. They didn't change it, which is perfect to get you to see the movie, because if you've seen The Room or you know The Room, you know that scene, and then it all goes from there. What were your thoughts on that scene? Because they talk about it. It took like 3 hours to film one line from the movie.
Yeah, to me it was just so. I was amused by it just on the level of the retakes and how they explained it and everything. And by the end of it, when he asks what his line is, like everyone else on set knows this line word for word, repeats it verbatim in unison. Yeah. And it's just like, that's the point when you can tell that he has lost them as, like, being on his side for anything.
Oh, I know.
And that was one of the first big instances. I think there was another one with the wardrobe girl, like, right beforehand, where you realize that Greg is basically the, like, people translator for Tommy.
Yeah. Because
it's, okay, you need to get him to do something, because this is not working.
Well, and he comes up after they've done so many, and he says, I'm going to try something. He's like, all right, yeah, sure, go ahead. And then he gives him a water bottle, and he says, I'll show the emotion. And it's interesting because Tommy actually does, in the movie, gets people to give emotion. He knows how to direct, at least in some way. He knows how to get people to portray. At least he knows how to do that with Greg. Let me rephrase.
Yeah.
And so Greg seems to say, all right, I'm going to just call back to the things you told me. Do the real human emotion. Get angry. He's like, oh, why didn't you say that before? And it's funny because that seems so true. Like, some people just need to be told something in a way that seems so obvious, but just to be retold it could really get them going. So he gives him the water bottle, and he says, try throwing this. And he comes out, and the first one that he does, he looks straight into the camera, but he gets the line right. So he's like, try not doing it. But it's funny, before they do that, Seth Rogen's like, oh, we've got a water bottle now. All right, yeah, that's going to change it. And because no one believes that this is going to happen.
Right. At this point, they just think that this movie's going to fail.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even going to make it out of production.
Well, and they finally gets it. He throws the water bottle down. He does it the first time, messes up because he's looking straight into the camera, but the second time is perfect. And everybody's like, all right, that's it. Yeah, let's do it. That was amazing. And it's like, that's how it should have been the whole time. And like, they're hugging and they're all excited. But that's his first scene that he's recorded in the entire movie. Which I think is really funny, because you have the very first time that they start recording, it shows filming day 1 of 40.
Yeah.
And then as it goes on, I don't know if the first time I saw it was the first one, but there was film day 52 of 40.
Yeah.
And it started going way past the original 40.
Right, yeah. I think I remember seeing 58 was one of them. Like, it, and as soon as they put down the day 1 of 40, in my head I went, this is going to become funny. Like, like, the only reason they're putting this detail in here is because it's going to go past 40 days. Like, I anticipated it, and I was, like, waiting for that moment when it went over the 40 days.
Well, and so I haven't seen the movie, The Room. You have. From the trailer alone, 40 days of filming seems excessive. Like, 40 for some major films is even, like, sometimes they film for a day, or, a month. They film for, like, 30 days, 40, 35 days, and then they're done. 40 days for a film that is mostly done in studio and green screen seems excessive.
Based on the quality of the movie, yeah, that's a very big thing, really. It's a super simple plot line when you, like, boil it down to it. It's got a lot of, like, common tropes and things like that. It tells a somewhat coherent story, and I don't know if maybe there's a lot more film that was, like, left on a cutting room floor that might have explained some of the points. Probably not, because they made a lot of references to it doesn't come up again. Like, it, like the breast cancer thing, they literally point out this is the only time this is mentioned. And yeah, they
do that throughout. Like, even at their premiere, I think it's the lady's husband, and she's like, it just never comes back up again. I don't know why we talked about it.
It was just, and there are so many moments like that watching the film. And that's probably the funniest one, which is why I think they used that one pretty specifically. But then there are just awkward scenes that make no sense, like the pillow fight that involves Danny, the small boy that lives nearby or, like, in the same building. Which they don't exactly flesh out that character relationship in The Disaster Artist.
No, and there's even question to it. Like, at the end, at the premiere, he's like, okay, so what is that relationship? And she's like, I don't know. They don't really ever tell you Danny's character. Like, yeah, he's there, but he's not the little brother. He's not, like, he's just there.
They explain it briefly, as, like, his parents are dead, I think, and Johnny basically just pays for where he lives in the building, and he's Johnny is essentially a father figure to him, which makes the pillow fight scene more disturbing.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, I don't think there's a way to not make that disturbing.
Nothing is better than hearing Josh Hutcherson say that I just like to watch you guys. It's like, oh, okay. Oh, man.
It's totally normal.
Yeah. But you can see the cast and crew are starting to lose faith in the movie. They're getting very frustrated. As we talked about earlier, the older actress who faints, the sex scene in which not only is he completely dead set on showing his ass on film, he even says, I have to show my ass in order to make the movie good. Like, yeah, this has to happen. And calling Lisa, the character, the actress who played Lisa, her body is ugly, and she's got acne, get makeup, and just calling her out in front of everybody, and denying Greg his Malcolm in the Middle opportunity. I think everybody at some point or another just starts to say, this is a lost cause.
He almost fires. I really wish I knew what his name was. He's one of the guys from the League.
Yeah,
that was in it. Like, after the whole Lisa scene, they get into a big argument of, you can't do that. Like, that's not allowed.
Paul Scheer.
Yeah.
Paul Scheer's character.
They get in an argument, and, like, he tells him he's fired. Mm-hmm. Like, at that point, it's like, well, you're fired. Get out of here. I don't want to deal with you. And, that was, I think, the real boiling point, because it happened shortly after the fainting scene. Like, it was shown, I think it might have been one of the, like, day 52, day 58, somewhere, where
they're getting tired of it.
It's gone on for far too long, and just thinking about the character of Tommy having to be in close proximity with that level of passion / ineptitude, which I think is a common, like, theme, because he's very passionate about what he does.
Oh, absolutely.
And they make a very good job of explaining that. Like, they show that he just really cares about this movie. Mm-hmm. It's not a great movie, but to him, it's like the best movie ever.
Yeah.
And
and they even mention at one point he's put $5 million into it, and they, at the very end, they say, like, the budget, though confidential, is said to have exceeded $6 million.
Right.
I mean, that's a lot of money to put into a movie that had really no special effects, no big names. It was just basically an independent film. That's a lot of money.
It was an independent film. He bought the equipment, which I feel like probably was one of the most expensive parts.
Yeah, at least probably half the budget right
there. And then he made set designs that didn't really need to happen. Like, the first scene that they're showing filming is in an alley. And they're like, why didn't we just use the alley? Which literally looks exactly like the set for the most part.
Yeah, and he says, because it's a real American movie. It's a real Hollywood movie. Like, we got to do it this way. Because you film on sets. But you don't have to if you have the set 10 feet away from you.
Yeah, so it was an interesting way to, like, show that level of commitment to it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and we get to a point, too, where it kind of boils down that everybody's just going to finish this up, and when they're done, they're done. And there's a final... There's the final filming day where they say they're going back to San Francisco to film for the last day. They go back to the spot where pretty much it's the first day that they meet, both Tommy and Greg's characters. They meet, and they're just throwing the football around, and they're talking about their dream of wanting to be actors and how it's just tough, but they really want to do it. And Greg's character at this point snaps because he's calling him out. He's making him do this, and he's like, I'm doing everything for you, Mark. And it's basically just you've inserted Mark and Johnny into what was a true real life situation. And I think this was Greg realizing that, okay, this isn't a movie about Tommy and Mark and Lisa and all these other characters. This is just Tommy kind of funneling his frustrations and his life into this script. Like, it is just coming alive through the script. Calling him out, saying, okay, all right, how old are you? Where are you from? All these just simple questions. And Tommy refuses. He's like, why are you doing this? We're on camera. And they get into a big fight. one that lasts for quite some time, and 8 months go by. That's it. He walks away. It says 8 months later, we were in post-production, and that's all done. And he gets, he's doing some Death of a Salesman, Greg is, and becoming an actor. Just doing it the way that a lot of actors do it, jumping into theater and seeing where it goes from there. And Greg gets a letter in the mail that is a postcard saying that the premiere, and he also actually before that doesn't he see the billboard? Yeah. And so we know that the room is actually is made. It is going to get premiered, and ultimately Tommy convinces him to go to the premiere. I think he says something along the lines like, "I know you don't like me, so don't do it for me. Do it for you. Like, you put a lot of work into this. It's important for you. Go to the premiere." And he goes. That last scene, as we are seeing these, this premiere, the reaction to having seen the movie The Room and seeing the characters who are literally cheering for Tommy, or Tommy as the character Johnny, to kill himself. Like, they were egging him on in the premiere, like, do it, like, let this character just die, it's so bad. What were your reactions, like, overall to The Room when you watched it?
It was definitely, like, I tried to take it as seriously as it was intended, but it's just so weird. Like, it really, you can't take it seriously. And by the end of it, yeah, the whole suicide thing, I don't think I was necessarily like, do it, like the theater was literally chanting it in this. Well, and that could have just been the culmination of they worked with him for so long, and it's just like, just do it. Just like...
Well, and did they add any effects in the movie, like a gunshot sound or anything, or was it just literally him holding the gun, pulling the trigger, and falling back?
I'm pretty sure they added a gunshot.
Because I was just like...
And they edited it so it didn't look as bad as what was filmed. That's good. But the way it's edited, I could definitely see them having to have edited it that way because of how badly it was filmed. Cut it a certain way. So...
and it's funny because of... We can look back on it now and say, okay, it's found success. This guy's life wasn't ruined by it. But at the time, I mean, you have Greg say, listen to the reaction. Like, Tommy sees everybody laughing at what he has thought was not a funny movie, and he goes and and leaves, walks out, and Greg follows him and says, they're reacting, they're enjoying themselves. And I think Tommy kind of comes to a realization, at least in the movie The Disaster Artist, maybe, I don't know if Tommy himself ever did, but the realization that, you make movies to make people happy, or to elicit an emotion for some reason. And these people are enjoying themselves. They may be laughing at the movie. They may be laughing at elements that he didn't want them to laugh at, but they are feeling. And he even says, I bet Hitchcock never got a response like this. And he's like, you're right. He probably didn't. And the movie ends, and Tommy goes up and is like, I'm happy you enjoyed my very comedic movie that I totally planned. Like... It's such a farce that it's very laughable.
Part of it that made it funny for me at that point was when he's getting the reaction that he doesn't expect, and he's getting really aggravated. I kind of had a callback in my own mind of the rooftop scene where Mark is telling Johnny the really sad story about how a girl ended up like getting beat and put in the hospital, and Tommy just laughs.
He does the laugh that isn't just like, it's not a natural, it's a ha ha ha. Like, it's this like fake laugh, and they try to get him. They're like, it's not funny. Like, why are you laughing? I didn't catch that.
And he makes a comment about it's natural human emotion or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, he defends it. And so it was kind of like a callback to, this is the human emotion that you're getting here. It may not be what you expected, but it's something.
Yeah. And that's awesome. I did not think about that. That makes so much sense to say that. And I think you see Greg and you see, I don't remember the actual actor's name, but the guy who played Danny, Josh Hutchinson's character, and and everyone's laughing, and they're like, "Oh, I shouldn't laugh. Like, this isn't funny." But they're looking around, everybody's laughing, and it's because it is funny. It is human emotion. and eliciting emotion out of people is hard to do. So doing it and on any level, laughing, crying, yelling, whatever it may be, is something to be proud of. I think that's ultimately what Greg gets to Tommy in the movie. They do a really cool kind of wrap up at the end of the movie to say, both Tommy and Greg are still really close friends. They work together still. The kind of telling the story of how The Room has continued to be kind of a cult following phenomenon, and then that's it. Did you stay for the post credits?
I did. I was about to ask.
I didn't. Because I'm like, okay. Well, first off, we had to get I had to get back home to make sure that I didn't miss our party. So I was like, all right, I can't stay, and it's a biography drama. There's not going to be anything. And then there was, and I'm so mad because I was waiting for Wiseau to show up, and I read that he shows up. So okay, so tell me what happens.
Basically, it's just James Franco as Tommy Wiseau getting into an argument, essentially, with Tommy Wiseau playing a guy named Andy, I think it was.
Okay.
And it's just, they're both being the same exact character, and just getting, aggravated with one another. And I don't remember exactly the dialogue, but it was just funny, because it was literally just, watching the same person do the same thing.
I'm very disappointed that I didn't wait. So I'm going to have to wait until there's something online that somebody records it, or I don't know, so it pops up there. Either that, or when the Blu-ray DVD comes out, I'll have to watch it then. So Tommy Wiseau shows up, and I was waiting the whole movie, and I walked out, and shame on me, because I was even telling my wife, and I was telling Jordan that, oh man, there's a post-credits, and she's like, okay, yeah. And I'm like, I didn't stay. She's like, you didn't stay? You stay every single time. So the one time I decide not to stay, there is a post-credits. So, all right. So, overall impressions of the film. What did you think?
I really liked it. I didn't anticipate liking it because, again, the time that I went to see the film, I hadn't seen The Room. Mm-hmm. I basically just knew, Lisa, you're tearing me apart. And oh hi Mark.
Oh hi Mark.
Those are literally the only two pieces of dialogue from the Room that I knew going into the movie. Which luckily they were both in The Disaster Artist.
Oh,
so super great to have that. But yeah, I went into it with very, very low expectations because I was like, I'm not going to get this because I don't know what it's talking about.
Yeah.
And it was able to explain it very clearly. And like I say, it didn't make Tommy Wiseau look like a farcical character at all. He's an actual person in this, and yeah, he has issues, and it might be language barrier, it might be other, behavioral things.
Yeah.
But whatever it is, they still made him human in it, and it could have been very easy to make this just an insulting movie to him, essentially.
Yeah. And I completely agree. I hadn't seen anything about The Room. I watched the trailer once I had heard about this film, The Disaster Artist. I went to YouTube, watched The Room trailer, and I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. But it feels like one of those movies that you would see on trailers for, but never would see on these old 90s VHS tapes. You pop it in. It's one of the 3 or 4 movies that you're like, okay, never heard of this, never gonna see it, but they're there.
Yeah.
And so it was really interesting, and I think that now that I've seen this, I do want to go and see The Room. And I like you said, we can find it online. It's out there, and definitely I'm going to take the time to see it, because if anything, I need to do it justice as The Disaster Artist did. I think you spoke very well to say that it made it feel very real, and he himself is such a character that portraying him in any other way could have just been way over the top. He was funny, but it wasn't because they portrayed him as funny. It's just because that's who he is.
Yeah.
He was quirky and different. Before I get your rating, let's do our character that you wanted to see a little bit more of.
I wish we kind of would have gotten a little bit more of Greg's like home life, because Megan Mullally
I know
played his mom, and I was like, oh good, she'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, she's in it for maybe 3 minutes.
Yeah,
2
she's
minutes.
in a very small scene, and I'm waiting for her to pop back up throughout the entire movie, because there's a couple of times where it would have been able to organically happen very easily, and I'm just like, I want more of this.
Yeah, she's great.
And yeah, she's just in one scene, and she's like incredibly serious during the scene, which was also funny because she's not a serious actor most times.
Well, and it made complete sense. Her 19-year-old son is moving, and like without any warning, the next day packs his bags and is leaving for LA. And granted, it's not across the country, but LA from San Francisco is still like 3.5, 4 hours. I mean,
it's a distance.
Yeah, you're not moving down the street. And so she's like, okay, who is this? Let me at least meet him. And he honks the horn, she walks out, and she's like, how old are you? And she's same age as Greg. Oh, you're 19. He's like, I just had a birthday. She's like, I just had a birthday. She's like, oh no, she says, yeah, I'm 14. I just had my birthday. And he's like, oh, happy birthday. Like, just completely oblivious of it. Oh man. Yeah, her scene, very short, but very funny. But the mother, that mother figure being very concerned and a little angry. And yeah, I wanted to see more of her too. I wanted to see more of Zac Efron's character just because it was hilarious seeing him with this goatee as Chris R. Not just Chris. He's like, can I just call him Chris? No, his name's Chris R. Like, okay, it's Chris R. And I thought that was really funny. I almost wanted to see more of Tommy, not because they didn't give us enough, but because I was just so intrigued with his story.
It got. By the way, Chris R is literally only in like that one scene that they were making fun of. It's like, okay,
where's my money? And yeah, and that's something too, is that was the first scene film. Sorry, at least as the disaster artist showed us, that was the first one. And he comes up and he's like punching the wall, and Zac Efron's like, getting all pumped up, and actually gets really, really close to like doing some mental damage to the character who played Danny. He was terrified. He's absolutely terrified. But yeah, so I think that would have been one for me. All right, so for this one, on our ranking of 1 to 5, let's go 1 to 5 oh hi marks. What would you give The Disaster Artist?
I'd probably give it 4 oh hi marks, probably. Okay. It was I was pleasantly surprised, and it was compelling enough to get me to watch The Room, you know. And just, I want to learn more about this. It's so intriguing. Like, Tommy as a person is such an intriguing character. I bought the book now. Like, I'm reading the book.
And that's actually written by Greg.
Yeah, it's written by Greg
and somebody else.
Yeah. But, and from what I can tell of it, I'm only like one chapter, and so I didn't bring it up too much. But it starts at filming. Like, all that lead up to day one of filming. Yeah. It doesn't really have that. The one piece of it that I've read that's just like, well, why didn't they put this in the movie? Because it sounded really interesting. Was apparently, when they were doing casting, they cast somebody as Mark that was not Greg. And then Tommy was like, hey, I want you to just do it. Just do Mark. Like, be that character. And he's like, we already cast somebody. If you get rid of him, it's going to make the cast angry. And he's like, I don't care. I want you to play the part. Like, it again was that level. It would have been another good opportunity for the just do something and the hesitation. Yeah. And they left that out, which I thought was kind of weird. But
yeah, I mean, the only reason why I would see them leaving that out is it kind of plays off of the idea that this was the story of Tommy and Greg. Yeah. So he wants him. But I think that would have been more interesting. And we never really talked about the auditions, but that is interesting because in the auditions for Lisa, it's just so bizarre. Like, what they're asking these people to do. And I think it's just it's just Tommy saying, like, this is what acting is. And it's really weird. So 4 out of 5. That's what I gave it too. 4 out of 5 oh hi marks. I don't think it's for everybody. It's not the it's not a movie that every single person is going to enjoy regardless. You have to, first off, I think you have to have interest in kind of biographical movies. You know, this is a story that is so off the beaten path that it isn't 100% biographical, at least in viewing. And so I think that there's a slow burn to it. It's not something that jumps out right at the beginning with like an action scene or like really in-depth characterization. It's just this idea of, here's who Tommy Wiseau is, here's a story of The Room, and here's how his friendship with Greg built and fell down, and then everything in between. I think that you'll get more out of it ultimately if you've seen The Room, or at least learned a little bit about it, seen the trailer, heard some things. But even then, like you said, you had nothing, and the movie does do a good job of setting it up so that this is an all-inclusive story of Tommy and Greg and the film The Room. So 4 out of 5 high marks for me. So that is it for at least our discussion of The Disaster Artist. If you have some time, did you want to talk about the Avengers?
Yeah, I will always talk about Marvel films.
Let's a special exclusive add-on to episode 9 this week. An impromptu discussion of the Infinity War trailer. So I was on the plane flying Delta, which, by the way, if you fly Delta, now you can actually message in flight. I was very, free of charge. I was talking to Jordan, and she goes, "Hey, just so you know, the Infinity War trailer just dropped." And I'm like, there's 2 hours left of my flight, so I had to wait for 2 hours.
Oh, God.
As soon as we landed, I get online, I'm looking it up. What were your thoughts? What were your thoughts on it?
I'm really excited for it. I'm intrigued to see what Marvel does with this, and I think it's going to be a big shift in the whole universe by the time that the 2 Avengers movies are done.
Yeah, I agree.
Mainly because they're being so tight-lipped about what they're doing after it. And normally they're telling you, hey, 2024, we're going to have this movie.
Yeah, they have been pushing for so long about what to expect so far out. And some of them have come, most of them have come to fruition, but some have been kind of combined. I think they were supposed to be
humans.
Yeah. The World War Hulk movie actually got combined with Thor Ragnarok, and I mean they've done all these different things. But I completely agree. I think they're going to blow this universe up. There's so many characters that are going to die. Or
they're going to develop Vision just to have him die.
Yeah.
They basically show him dying in the trailer, which I mean, you knew was going to happen because he has the Mind Stone.
Yeah.
And it's okay. But yeah, they have the shot with him and Scarlet Witch. It's just oh good, they're gonna make you care about him and then destroy him. This is nice.
Yeah, Paul Bettany, sad to see you go. And if they find a way, maybe there's a way to make him, back into Jarvis and at least keep his idea, and we can keep him around. I don't know.
I don't think we're gonna have to worry about that because I think Iron Man's on the.
I agree.
On the chopping block too.
Him and Captain America. I think that we might be losing a lot of people in this movie, or by the end of part 2 at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see this development of, I think they said 18 movies in before we finally get to this one.
Right.
That's amazing. And I think that to me is why I appreciate Marvel so much more, is they have waited for so long to give us what we wanted from day one, which is just put all the awesome characters together, put all the heroes together. Let's see this huge fight. No, they didn't make the 4th movie. They didn't make their Justice League before they established everything and drew it out.
Exactly, and I think that's the difference there.
Yeah.
I'm real excited for that. The weird part for me still is we've had such a limited interaction with Black Panther. So far. Yeah. And he's a pretty major part of the trailer, and minor characters from his movie are big parts in this.
Well, yeah.
And part of me is a little upset, even though it really doesn't matter, because basically anybody who's a superhero has plot armor.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so seeing minor or other characters that are major characters in Black Panther's trailer alive in the Infinity Wars trailer is kind of well, now if they're in any kind of peril, I'm just going to be well, they live.
Exactly. And that's something too, is that a lot of people are saying, I think is it the Soul Stone that we still don't know where it is?
I think so,
technically.
yeah.
Everybody's thinking, oh, it's going to be in Black Panther. I'm like, I never got the impression that Black Panther's storyline was going to have a huge tie-in to the Infinity War story. Like, Black Panther, like you said, we don't know much. This is not necessarily an origin story, I don't think, but it's definitely a story of, here's who this character is. We got a little bit of it in Civil War, enough to get us interested.
Yeah.
But this is really just fleshing this character out, so then I think we have investment and we care about him more in Infinity War.
Now, Andy Serkis' character, I might be completely wrong on this. Isn't he like a mining tycoon, basically? Because he has like vibranium or something he mines. Because what it could be is he could be like a gemstone collector and just have the Soul Stone and not realize it.
That's very true.
Like, I could see it being like a throwaway, just like almost like MacGuffin type thing, where it's like it's gonna be there.
Yeah, so his character is Claw from the comics, and Claw has a semisonic like not hook, but like a little satellite for a hand.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would not be surprised if that's where it is. That's a really good theory. I don't know. I don't know where this is going to lead us. I would kind of hope that there's a little bit of tie-in, but from what I've read so far, they said that we're really done with our build up to this Infinity War. With the trailer for this coming out, we know where Thor stands. We know that that Captain America and Winter Soldier are in
hiding almost.
in Wakanda. They say they're both hanging out in Wakanda. One in kind of in frozen state, and so they're over there. And you've got with Homecoming, we know where Spider-Man is. We know where Iron Man is. All of our big players, Guardians of the Galaxy, they're all in space. They're going to meet up with Thor. Like, all of our big players are set. Black Panther's the only one that we don't have a whole lot of.
And however much Captain Marvel ends up playing into it.
I don't think she's going to be in it. I think the early rumors were that this is where we were going to see her, but the last I had read is the first time we are going to see her is going to be in her standalone movie,
which I think is set in the 90s, right?
Yes,
like last I heard.
Yes, and that is supposed to come out before Infinity War 2.
Okay, so maybe she
might
at that point. Okay,
she'll be in the storyline. She has to be in the storyline.
Yeah, I assumed like she would pop up like in the last few seconds, and it's just like, who the heck is this? Like, where did she come from?
Well, and I think that we're getting way ahead of the trailer at this point, but I think that the first movie is going to end on a major death, which is going to kind of just show, okay, how the hell are we going to come back from this? And it's going to be either Iron Man or Captain America, in my opinion.
I think that I want to say that they're going to hold off on those deaths until the second one.
What's going to get us to part 2, though? Like, what's going to be worth holding on to?
I think everybody's going to be super, like, because we still have the like ramifications of Civil War where Captain America and Iron Man really aren't talking to one another.
Yeah.
But I think that the death that's going to happen is going to be Vision.
That could be too.
And
we know that's coming.
I could see them killing off Scarlet Witch in the same blow.
Yeah.
Because she could go to try to like save him, defend him, something. Because they build up that relationship in the trailer, or at least allude to it after it's been, set up previously. And basically make it where, a loss is felt that both of them are going to have.
And maybe it ends with him getting the Soul Stone, like completing the gauntlet. And now what are we going to do?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm excited. I am pumped for it. I think that we've got, I've been looking at all the articles. I've been looking at all of the different stories of what you may have missed and Easter eggs. And I'm excited. They pumped a lot into this trailer, and they gave everybody something to hold on to. And I think from this point on, I'm going to try not to watch any more trailers of it, just because I know that it's going to give a little bit more and a little bit more. And like I talked with Mike Shea in our discussion of Thor Ragnarok, if I would not have known that Hulk was going to be in it, I would have loved that so much more. Right. So I think the more I can kind of prevent myself from knowing going in, I know I'm going to go see it. I don't need to be convinced anymore to see it.
Right, and I think Marvel has that with anyone, really. It's like, they you either like those movies or you are weird.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly. either you're the kind of people we want to talk to or you're not. So.
And I just want to say, real quick, you mentioned the Thor movie. I loved the best retcon ever of Fake with the Infinity Gauntlet. And, like, because it was just like, as soon as they announced that Thanos was going to be the big thing and the Infinity Stones were the thing, it's like, well, you showed that in Thor 1, like, in the, like, treasure room or whatever, the artifact area. And so it's like, how can you fix that? And they fixed it with one word and tipping it off of a table.
So... and that's, me and Mike sat down and talked about that, and that was a lot of fun because, like, that was one movie that I still talk with some of my students about. Like, they're like, I don't know if I really liked it. I'm like, how could you not like Thor Ragnarok? It basically combined science fiction, action, cheesy 80s movies, and a hero movie all in one with some pretty great visuals, an awesome soundtrack, and just, like you said, it had no holes. Like, it even went back and filled up plot holes. It was a good time. So, all right. Well, I think we're getting close to wrapping up here. Very excited for Infinity War Part 1. And I'm sure that we'll probably have many more conversations before next May, which that'll be a birthday present for me. So I'm gonna make sure that is on the docket. All right. So, Jack, thanks again for coming in. It's always a pleasure. You're the first repeat guest host, and we'll definitely have you back on here again.
Glad to be here. It's fun.
It's a good time, And next week we are going to be going back to Illinois. Last episode was from Illinois. I am going to see Star Wars Last Jedi with my father, with my pops. We have seen every single Star Wars in theater together, including the original 3 when they re-released them before Episode 1 came out. So I told him, I'm like, all right, hey, I'm going to come back. We can't break the streak now just because I'm in Ohio and you guys are still over in Illinois. So I'm going to go back for that. So if you haven't yet listened to the Coco episode 8, the one before this one, and you want to get a little bit of introduction into my dad and that crazy guy in that relationship, go back and listen to episode 8 to get yourselves ready for next week's episode of The Drive-In. So until then, as always, you can reach me on Twitter at The Drive-In Eventide, and also you can reach us through email, drivein-eventide at gmail.com. So if you reach out to us, you can always get your feedback read on the podcast. So reach out and let us know what you think. Until then, again, Jack, thanks for coming in, and everybody else, drive home safe.